Soul is directed by Pete Docter and Kemp Powers, and it stars Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey as the voices of these two souls. The film is about a music teacher who's passionate about living his life as a full-time professional musician, and he finally gets the chance to fulfill the dream after impressing a well-known musician so much that she gives him a job. Excited for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he celebrates around his neighborhood until he falls down a sewer, comes back as a small soul object that's tasked to venture across the great before to help a newer soul find her spark. Now, first off the bat, I just want to say this is a Pixar movie, so you already know the animation is top notch. Incredible. But there's something about the animation that I also want to say too is that there's a different feel to it. It has like more of a realistic aesthetic to it. Like a lot of things have more detail in them. I mean, they usually tend to put a lot of their details in their animation, but this one felt a little bit more grounded in the design of the animation. Like they have like the layout of New York, and it's very dense and it's very full of life. I mean, I love the like they have great vibrant colors and like the afterlife, like the great before place has all of these beautiful these beautiful purple colors and stuff, and just the rendering of all that. Oh, I can tell. Took hella money for that shit. I can already know. And they also have like minor exaggerated design choices for like some of the design characters' attributes, like their physical attributes, to kind of like still, make it, lighthearted and kid friendly and things like that. I'm not in the stereotypical way, I mean, Joe has like these, like his bottom lip is a little bit out there, but it's not to offend anybody. It's clearly just the design of the animation. It's cool. It's nice. I actually enjoyed the animation a lot. They also implemented these 2D designs into the afterlife part. And I thought like mixing that with 3D animations was pretty good. It feels like Pixar is always doing like they're always upping the ante with their animation. It seems like for some reason I don't know, but I mean I thought it was really great in this film. Now when it comes to the story, the world building is not as easy to get through as you would think. I know it's a Disney Pixar movie, and I know it's supposed to be for kids, but the narrative is a little bit heady. Because they're talking about a lot of ideas from like afterlife and just all of these nuances about the inner self, and they're using a lot of labels to kind of get you on board with what they're trying to do with the film, but sometimes it takes some time to really grasp what they're actually talking about. Like I mean, I love when they talk about the contrast between the great before and the I forget what they call it, but that one place where it's like a long bridge and they're headed towards heaven or whatever and stuff. They do a good job at explaining that in some cases, but to try to grasp, how all of this works, like the rules of it all, it takes a bit. It just takes a little bit of it, but it's not too convoluted. So there's that. As they go through like this stage of the afterlife, there's just a lot. There's just a lot kind of coming at you that you really have to try to ingest. Especially when they get to the parts about the personalities, and then the like in the zone, and a lot like there's a lot of things. There's a lot of like layers to the afterlife that you kind of have to learn and stuff, and it takes a bit to really understand, but eventually you get it. They don't give too much out there. They just give you just enough to kind of understand. Okay, and then you keep it moving and stuff. So it was fine. It was fine. Now, one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting was when they started talking about the spark. Now, the spark is pretty much a thing where you have these newborn souls that are born into the great before, and they like go into these little huts and develop personalities. Like you'll have like the guardians. I don't know what you call them, but like the guardians that would like put these children in these huts and say, "I'm gonna give you a little bit of insecurities. I'm gonna give you a little bit of anxiety. I'm gonna make you a little bit selfish, and you're gonna be maybe psychotic or something." All those kind of things. And they develop all these kinds of personalities in this little circle thing. And each dot, I think it's like six dots. Like each dot is like a personality, like angry, self-absorbed, trust issues, all that stuff that people have in their personality. And this is one last dot that they have in their circle that they need to accomplish to enter into Earth, and that's called the spark. And the spark is pretty much something that, well, it's twofold. What's explained is that the spark is supposed to be, one's passion, like one's purpose and goal to pretty much inspire them to become great on Earth. And so once a soul achieves all those personality traits and then develops this purpose in life, they're permitted to fall into the earth and land into somebody and give them all of these personalities and that spark to like make them do great things and stuff. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was like a nice creative way to show where people kind of get their passions from. Like when people say they're born with, I was born to do this and born to do that. Like it's good to kind of have people kind of like, come up with those ideas and be like, I figure like what I want to do in my life. It's kind of just it was kind of cool to see. It was pretty fun. I want to say that my favorite scene of this film was when was that barbershop scene. I think that scene does such a good job at just showing like, the urbanness of, New York, because like it's funny when they go into the barbershop, you kind of see all of the colloquialisms of like what it's like to be in a black barbershop and stuff. Like you have like the stocky guy, with all the tats and stuff, who's like with the Picasso with the clippers and stuff. It's just I was just like I can't believe they got that. Like yeah, it's you go into a barbershop, you're gonna usually see a buff dude, all of these tats and stuff, kind of just sitting there chopping it up with everybody, but like does an amazing job like on just the grooming stuff. And I'm glad they put that in there. I was like, wow. And but like one of the things that I liked about it was when they had like this discussion about life and just kind of like, what's is life, what's all this worth living for and things like that. And I think that's the scene where it starts to really kind of twist things around and kind of turn the whole narrative on its head. Because as you're watching the film, you're thinking that the soul is trying to like find its purpose, and then you realize that like this, like the whole nature of this scene changes. It redefines what actually the spark really is. It turns out that the spark isn't just like your goal or your purpose. It's pretty much your willingness to live fully and not be so obsessed with your purpose. And I loved how like the montage of Joe kind of just fulfilling his purpose, his goal in life, and sort of feeling a little bit um disheartened because he felt like he wanted more and thought that he would feel different after completing this task. And then when it turns out that he feels somewhat the same and wants more, there's a great quote in that movie where the musician tells the story of a fish about how he wanted to fall into the water, and then when he got into the water, he was like, I actually want the ocean. And it's just a good metaphor about how people always want more and would never be satisfied, when they even get more of what they want. And I love just seeing how Joe started to just look at all of the things that he's gone through in life, like the simple things in life at his age, and just how much he took it all for granted, and just realized that all this time I've been obsessing over my passion and my goal in my life, not really appreciating that all these small moments in my life that I've had were the ones that made me happier. Those are the ones that made me happy. I love the explanation of the zone. The zone is something that I feel can relate to anybody. The zone is pretty much this place where when you're very focused on something, like they showed it with when you're a musician and you're just zoned in into the technique of your music. You get into this trance where it puts you in a place where you're liable to become lost, in your work. And I think they did a clever way of showing how you can get lost in the zone and become a lost soul. Like the lost soul is pretty much this being where, when you get into the zone, you become so self-absorbed and so obsessed and just so like too almost unhealthily focused on your goal and on your purpose. When you're so obsessed with this thing, all of your anxieties and all of the stresses that comes with that starts to build all of this blackness outside of you or inside of you rather, and you become just so lost in your goal. And I just felt that was just so powerful. I mean, for them to just come up with that was genius. I thought that was just a genius way of just kind of showing the contrast between goal and just self. Man, it was that was a genius play. That was a genius play. I would say that. I also like that they had one of my favorite scenes too is when they had like these cameos for like historical figures, for 22 because 22 is a soul that was supposed to be chaperoned around to like find her spark or whatever, and she's like the only soul or one of the only souls that can't find her spark, and she's been through like soul after soul after soul after soul, but like they show how like those souls were about like they show Abraham Lincoln, Amadeus Mozart, and like all of the historical figures just to kind of show that she's been at this a long time, and seeing her piss them all off and stuff. Like it was funny to kind of just see that. I don't think this film is for kids. And I don't mean by that by saying that it's inappropriate or nothing. I just think that because of the themes that are in this film, they cater more to adults, I feel like. Because the film's narratives is revolved around this idea of finding your purpose and finding your goal and happiness and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like kids don't really grasp that concept yet. Kids are like usually just out trying to have fun and things like that. And I feel like kids are already happy. And I think like adults usually are the ones that tend to grapple with what it is that makes them happy and things like that. And I just remember when I was watching this how much a lot of these narratives was hitting home for me personally. They show how finding your purpose and finding your goal is literally everybody's dream. Like when you're at this adult stage, you're looking for your dream, you're trying to chase your dream. And I think one of the things that really hit hard for me for this film was that as a creative and as an actor myself, I find myself always grinding to find my purpose, or rather reach my purpose. Because I feel like I know what my purpose is, but reaching that has always been like the struggle and the grind. And we always hear these things about how we have to keep going, don't give up. The reward is always going to be great in the end. And one of the things that this movie helped me realize was that every time I focus time on going towards my goal, I'm always stressed out. I'm always like not myself. I'm always literally sacrificing my health, whether I'm not eating, not sleeping, all of these things I'm putting at the expense of reaching my goal. And a lot of times I feel like as people we forget how much our purpose has taken hold of us and how much we've kind of obsessed over this purpose because it's something that we really love so much. And I really like the scene too where Joe is explaining to his mom about how this is something that really means much. Like he always wanted to be a musician. He's always wanted to become something of himself. He's feel like he's never done anything, and that's something that I feel like everybody can relate to about how we always feel like we can do more and more and more, and we find ourselves doing more and more and more every time. And the more we do, the more stressed we become, the more unhealthy we become. And one of the most powerful messages that I think this film brings is this idea that you can become lost in your obsession and you can become not yourself as you come closer to your goal. But you really have to start to acknowledge what's more important to you, this goal or just being happy living your life. And it challenges this idea of finding your purpose and things like that, because the spark isn't necessarily what's your goal, what is your purpose in life. That's what we aspire to want, but the actual spark is the willingness to live fully, not just live, but to live fully and not and count every day like it's our last, and really just enjoy the little things. Because that montage of Joe kind of just looking back and seeing how happy he was just riding the train, looking out into the window and eating cake by himself, and just being around his dad and kind of like hanging out with his dad, like all these things that we think aren't important in our lives, they actually are. And kind of just seeing that contrast and seeing him come to grasp with like, you know what, I've been missing out on all the things that really make me happy. And when he's completed that task of his goal, he felt someone indifferent. Like he felt like he was like he mentions in the film that he thought it would feel different. You know what I mean? I just start to think about how many of us have actually had that kind of feeling where we felt, you know, almost the same or a little indifferent about after completing a milestone of our purpose. It's a lot of themes though that really, hit the core for adults, I feel like, and I dug it. I really loved this movie a lot. I got emotional at times. I can't lie. I did feel some of the themes hit home for me, harder than I thought. Asking myself about, what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that kind of stuff. So because of that, I'm gonna give it an 8.75 out of 10. I really loved it. I really did. Really powerful stuff, really good things there. And good job on Pixar for, showing something original. It does get a little confusing at times, but I feel like I said, I think it's gonna go over kids' heads, and a lot of more adults are gonna really appreciate this a lot more. I think if I was to rank, you know, my Pixar movies like top five, I would put Soul as like number three. It would go Toy Story 3, Inside Out, and then Soul, and then as number three, and then you have like Incredibles and Monsters Inc. and stuff like that. Those are my top five. Just say. So yeah, that was a damn good movie. So that's my movie review. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you love this video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.